Delta One has broken through the eastern boundary of the airport. Enemy aircraft are reported heading towards the runway. Engage them, but not making takeoff.
Feldspar International Airport, situated on the northeast coast of Ignis Major, the largest of the islands in the Ignis archipelago. This officially civilian airport has a number of military-style facilities, most notably the hardened aircraft shelters, very useful for storing armed aircraft, and understandably both sides in the ongoing war have paid special attention to the strategic location of the airport, located in the centre of the Ignis archipelago. The Primerian Armed Liberation Alliance moved first in an attempt to take the important airport, launching a combined air-land assault from their bases in the west of Ignis Major. Heavy vertical lift VL-49 Tarantulas were to drop special forces and equipment at the airport in hope to seize it, whilst the leading elements of a mechanised brigade advanced through Feldspar City. Unfortunately for Pala, the Boscali defence fort had come up with a mirror opposite plan to their own, and with Pala beginning the execution of their own operation, the BDF immediately deployed their own forces, just like Pala, a combined air-land assault on the airport. Out to sea, naval battle groups led by aircraft carriers of both sides converged on the battle scene. A huge major battle for the Ignis archipelago had now begun. We received orders to scramble. All aircraft get in the air and head towards Feldspar International Airport. Pala had attacked at last, and we were moving to counter them. As soon as I cleared the mountain range, I could already see the air battle raging over the airport, and I locked up a compass, prepared to fire with my heat-seeking missiles. But, as was typical of my luck, both the planes I fired my missiles at were engaged and shot down before my own missiles could score their hits. Such is war, such is life. I, after all, was not here to engage enemy aircraft. My job was to support the ground forces in their assault on the airport. At last, I picked off 2 missiles at enemy ground forces, units that had been air-landed by the enemy tarantulas. It was at this time that the airport fell to the Pala air-landing assault. The atmosphere around the airport was about to get very warm indeed. It was imperative that the enemy mechanised vanguard advancing from Feldspar City were engaged and their advance blunted, before they could join their comrades at the airport and consolidate their gains. I was able to position my helicopter at the head of a column moving towards the airport, and using my Kingpin rockets, I could engage this column as it moved forwards, destroying several enemy vehicles in the process and sending troops scattering, running for cover, demoralised. But now, additional enemy aircraft were arriving from across the sea, the enemy carrier battle groups, and smaller airfields on the outlying islands. It was time to get low and use the terrain for cover from enemy missiles. It now also became quite clear that the enemy air landing assault included a number of pilots for the Pala Air Forces. They had quickly taken control of the aircraft stationed at the airport and were now clawing to take off. We set to engaging these aircraft as they reached for the skies, and I had to take fast evasive action as an enemy optical guided missile homed in on my location. This missile missed my helicopter by a gnat's dick's width. And my gunner was able to reduce the chicane we were engaging to a flaming wreck. It was clearly imperative that we pin the enemy aircraft down, do not let them take off, keep them on the deck, destroy them as they taxied for the runways. We even received orders to destroy the hardened aircraft shelters if necessary in order to destroy any aircraft that might be used against us. Of course, the enemy aircraft that were already airborne would not make this an easy task, and my gunner made careful use of our cannon to keep enemy aircraft at bay, whilst I concentrated on the enemy aircraft taxiing for the runways, using my Kingpin missiles to destroy them on the deck. More and more of our own air assets now began to engage enemy aircraft on the ground. Bombs and missiles rained in around the airport as our own ground forces finally breached through the eastern boundaries and began to fan out through the airport complex, sweeping aside the light and cut off enemy forces holding the airport. My gunner brought my attention to a KR-67 Ifrit, a fighter that would swat us from the skies easily without breaking a sweat. It was attempting to taxi towards the main runway, and a whack from one of my last remaining Kingpins settled his hash. The airport, at last, fell to our ground forces. We had succeeded in repelling the enemy assault, and I was able to land and rearm, get back into the air again. As you can understand, with enemy forces now expelled from the airport, their air forces made their own valiant attempt to destroy our aircraft on the ground. Together with a renewed air landing assault using Tarantula heavy lift aircraft once again, I was able to get airborne and engage 2 such aircraft with my missiles. But of course, not without difficulties. More and more enemy aircraft were converging on the airport, hoping to destroy our troops and our aircraft on the ground. They wanted to deny this huge facility to us, even if it meant levelling the entire airport. With the air landing reinforcements destroyed, I was able to return to my original job of supporting our own ground forces as they advanced further west towards Felspar City. A troop of enemy main battle tanks were holding up the advanced guard of our ground forces, and I was able to knock them out with a trio of ATP-1 missiles. Once again, enemy air defense saw me having to take evasive action, but the road was now effectively open to Felspar City, and I continued to fly overhead of our ground forces, providing them with whatever cover they might need. Things had gone quiet, as if everyone was drawing breath for the next phase of the battle.